The little cloud who learned to make rain. Once upon a time, high above the rolling green hills and the sleepy little villages below, there lived a very small cloud named Nimbus. He was the softest, puffiest little cloud you could ever imagine, round and white as a fresh ball of cotton, drifting gently through the wide blue sky like a slow breath let go on a quiet morning. He was not very large, not at all. The other clouds around him stretched wide and full across the horizon, billowing and grand, their silver edges catching the light of the afternoon sun. But Nimbus was small, and that was perfectly fine, because the sky was enormous and full of room for every kind of cloud, big and small alike. Nimbus spent his days floating. That was mostly what he did, and he loved it dearly. He would drift over meadows and let his shadow cool the wildflowers below. He would drift over ponds and watch his own gentle reflection ripple in the water when the wind moved softly across the surface. Sometimes he would drift near the mountains, where the air was cool and crisp and smelled of pine trees and rock, and something ancient and still. He liked the mountains very much. But there was one thing that Nimbus did not yet know how to do. All the older, bigger clouds knew how to do it. They did it so naturally, so effortlessly, that it seemed as simple as breathing. And that thing was making rain. Every time the big clouds gathered themselves together and grew dark and full and heavy, Nimbus would watch in wonder as the rain fell down below. Millions of tiny silver drops tumbling softly toward the earth, pattering on rooftops, filling rivers, giving a long, cool drink to every thirsty garden and meadow below. Nimbus wanted so very much to learn. The first place Nimbus drifted on his gentle journey to learn about rain was the wide, open sky just above an old apple orchard. It was late in the afternoon, and the sun was beginning its slow, unhurried slide toward the horizon, painting everything in warm gold and amber light. The apple trees below were heavy with green fruit, just beginning to blush into red, their branches bowed gently, their roots reaching deep and patient into the dark earth. And there, drifting beside Nimbus, was an old cloud named Cumulus. Cumulus was very large, very soft, and very old. His edges were silver and white and faintly lavender where the evening light touched them, and he moved slowly, the way very wise things always seem to move. Nimbus drifted close to him and asked, in the gentlest little voice, how one goes about learning to make rain. Cumulus smiled, and when an old cloud smiles, it looks like the softest kind of glow spreading across the sky, the way light behaves just before it becomes sunset. He told Nimbus that making rain was not really something you forced or rushed or tried too hard to do. It began, he said, with gathering, with receiving, with simply being open to taking in all the moisture that the world so generously offers up to the sky. He told Nimbus to think about the mornings when dew forms on the grass below, how that water lifts so slowly and so quietly into the air, invisible and patient. He told him to think about the rivers winding through the valleys, always giving a little of themselves back to the sky. And the ocean, far away, breathing in and out in great slow tides, always offering up a little of its vastness to become clouds, to become rain, to become rivers and lakes, and dew again. It was a circle, Cumulus said softly, a long, slow, beautiful circle, and Nimbus was part of it whether he knew it or not. He was already gathering moisture even now, just by drifting through the air with an open and quiet heart. Nimbus listened to every word and held each one carefully inside himself, the way a flower holds a raindrop in its petals without spilling a single drop. The next morning, which arrived the way all good mornings do, slowly, softly, with pale light creeping across the sky like something shy and tender, Nimbus found himself drifting over a wide and gentle lake. The lake was still and silver in the early light, perfectly calm, the kind of calm that feels like the whole world is still sleeping and the water is simply keeping watch. Thin wisps of mist rose from the surface, curling upward so slowly they seemed to be dreaming. And it was here that Nimbus met a small bird, a little gray heron who stood at the very edge of the lake on one thin, patient leg. The heron was very still, watching the water with great soft eyes, and she did not seem at all startled to see a small cloud drifting curiously low over the water to say good morning. The heron told Nimbus that she came to this lake every morning, not because she was always hungry, but because mornings on the water were peaceful, and peaceful things were worth coming back to. She told him that she had watched clouds make rain many, many times over the years, standing here in all seasons, and she said that the thing she had always noticed was that the clouds who made the best rain were the ones who had been patient, who had waited, who had not tried to be more than they were on any particular day. Nimbus floated above the glassy water and thought about this. He looked at his reflection below, small and white and round, and instead of feeling impatient about his size, he felt something warm and settled move through him. You know that feeling, perhaps, of being exactly where you are supposed to be, at exactly the right moment, without needing anything to be different from how it is. That is what Nimbus felt. There, above the quiet lake, with the mist rising all around him and the heron standing still and serene at the water's edge. He stayed there a long time, just breathing in the cool, moist air that rose from the surface of the lake. And slowly, very slowly, he felt himself growing the tiniest bit fuller, the tiniest bit heavier. Not heavier in a sad way, heavier in the way that a fruit grows heavy on a branch when it is slowly becoming ripe, full of sweetness and ready for something good. By the third day of his gentle journey, Nimbus had drifted quite far, and he found himself floating over a lavender field at dusk. The lavender was in full bloom, row after beautiful row of purple and silver stretching across the hillside, like something from a very soft dream. The air was warm and fragrant, and bees were making their last slow, drowsy visits to the blossoms before the day let go of its light entirely. Here, Nimbus met another cloud, a young one, only a little older than himself, named Cirrha. Cirrha was a thin, high cloud, the kind that looks like long white brush strokes across a fading blue sky, and she moved with a certain easy grace that Nimbus admired very much. She had made rain before, just twice, and she was happy to tell Nimbus everything she remembered about how it felt. She said it felt like letting go, mostly, like carrying something precious for a long time and then gently, willingly, offering it back to the world below. She said you did not push the rain out, you simply stopped holding it so tightly. You relaxed, the way you might relax your hands after holding something carefully for a long time, and the rain knew what to do all by itself. The drops fell because they wanted to fall, because falling was in their nature, and the earth below was waiting, and all of it was just the world breathing, the great slow breath of water moving in its endless circle. Nimbus listened and drifted gently over the lavender, letting the fragrant air rise up around him, soft and purple-smelling and sweet. A few of the bees below paused on their blossoms and lifted their fuzzy golden faces toward the small cloud passing overhead, as if they were saying hello, or thank you, or perhaps simply acknowledging that the world was full of small and beautiful things, all going about their quiet, important work. And Nimbus felt fuller still, softer still. His edges, once perfectly crisp and white, were beginning to take on a very faint silver color, the way a cloud looks when it is becoming something more than it was before. On the fourth day, which was a slow and hazy morning with sunlight coming through in long, diffused beams that made everything look like a gentle painting, Nimbus drifted over a sleeping village. The rooftops were red and orange tile, worn smooth by many years of weather. Garden walls were draped in climbing roses, just beginning to open. Cats lay stretched on windowsills. An old man walked slowly down a cobblestone lane, his hands behind his back, in no particular hurry at all. And then Nimbus noticed something. Below, in a small garden behind a stone cottage, a little girl knelt beside a garden bed. She was perhaps 5 or 6 years old, with dark hair tucked behind her ears and muddy knees, and an expression of very serious concentration on her face. She was checking the soil with one finger, pressing it gently into the earth, and then she looked up at the sky with the most open, trusting, hopeful expression that Nimbus had ever seen. She was hoping for rain. You could tell just by looking at her. She had planted something there, small seedlings, just barely green, just barely beginning to be whatever they were going to be, and they needed water, and she was looking at the sky the way children look at things they believe in with their whole hearts. Nimbus looked at the little girl, he looked at her seedlings, he looked at the dry earth around them, and something shifted inside him, something opened, the way a door opens when you stop pushing and simply let it swing on its own. He thought about what Cumulus had told him about the circle. He thought about what the heron had said about patience. He thought about what Sira had said about letting go. And very softly, very slowly, without any great effort or drama or fuss, he let himself be what he had been becoming all along. The first drop fell before Nimbus even quite realized what was happening. Then another. Then another, still. Small, gentle drops, falling in a slow and peaceful curtain from his soft silver belly, down through the warm morning air, down through the fragrance of roses and old stone and garden earth, and then, patter, 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 down onto the seedlings, onto the little girl's upturned face, onto the cobblestones and the rooftops and the old man's shoulders and the sleeping cats, who opened one eye each and then decided they did not really mind. The little girl laughed. It was the most delightful sound, small and bright and happy, a sound that rose up through the rain and found its way all the way to Nimbus, floating up there in the sky, feeling lighter and warmer and more himself than he ever had before. After the rain, which lasted just the right amount of time, long enough to be truly satisfying, short enough to feel like a gift, the sky began to clear. The clouds shifted and drifted apart, and a rainbow appeared over the village, soft and wide, its colors blending into each other the way colors do in dreams. Nimbus floated in the quiet that comes after rain, that particular stillness that feels clean and full and new, the way the world always seems slightly more itself after it has been washed gently from above. The old apple orchard he had passed over was drinking deeply now, its roots drawing the water down into the dark earth where it would do its slow, patient work. The lake was dimpled with the memory of drops. The lavender field was shining, and in the little garden behind the stone cottage, the seedlings stood straight and still, their leaves glistening, quietly beginning to become what they were always meant to become. Nimbus drifted on, softer and lighter now, feeling the sky all around him like a great, kind, open home. He was still small. He was still round and white and gentle, but he knew something now that he had not known before. He knew that he was part of something much larger than himself, something slow and beautiful and endlessly turning. He was part of the circle that Cumulus had described. He was part of the patience that the heron had shown him. He was part of the letting go that Sira had given him as a gift. He drifted on into the afternoon, which was warm and golden, and held the sound of birdsong and distant water and the soft movement of trees in a gentle breeze. And as he drifted, he grew, slowly and peacefully, gathering the world's moisture into himself with an open and grateful heart, ready to give it all back again when the time was right. If you were to look up at the sky right now, in that soft, sleepy way you sometimes do, just before your eyes decide they would rather stay closed, you might see a small cloud up there drifting peacefully. You might notice how unhurried it seems, how soft and full and quiet, and you would know in that gentle way that you know things when you are almost asleep, that it is in no rush at all. It is simply floating and gathering and being exactly what it is, a small, beautiful, necessary part of the great, slow circle of the world. And that, of course, is more than enough. It is everything. Rest now, the way the earth rests after the rain. Let your thoughts drift like soft clouds across a wide blue sky. Let them come and go, easy and slow, without holding on to any of them. The world is quiet. The rain has fallen. The garden is drinking. And somewhere high above, a little cloud named Nimbus is drifting peacefully through the fading evening light, already beginning to gather again, already becoming full again, in the most gentle and unhurried way. Close your eyes. Feel the soft weight of sleep coming, the way rain comes, slowly at first, then all at once, washing everything clean and quiet and still. Good night, little one. Sweet, sweet dreams.